Greetings and welcome to another broadcast of Keys to Your Best Life. I am your host, Maggie Cavanaugh, and I am here with my sister in Christ, Christy Crites. And we're so excited to have her on the broadcast today because she is an author, speaker, podcaster, blogger extraordinaire. I'm telling you, this woman is the real deal. Okay, I met her in Indiana at the conference, the King's Daughters Conference, which I was honored to speak at again for their 10th anniversary. And when I found out about her book, and what God is doing through her life, I knew I had to have her on the broadcast. So, Christy, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. I am excited to be here.
I'm so blessed to have you here with me. I know I told a little bit about the public things that you do, but tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, my husband and I have been married for about 19 years, and the cool thing I love to talk about, it's total squirrel moment, but the cool thing I love to talk about is neither one of us dated anyone before we found each other, which I thought was so rare in today's day and age. But anyways, we've been married for about 19 years and we have 5 children. Evan, Cooper, Lydia, Piper, and Luca. Had to do roll call, but anyway, so they range in age from 5 to 16. And our second son, Cooper, has been diagnosed with autism when he was about 3. And he's 15 now. He just turned 15 a couple weeks ago. But, you know, he's the light of our house. We call him Coop Dog the Great, I guess, is the best way to put it. But, you know, when I post kids updates on Facebook, I always name him Coop Dog the Great. But there's that. And then the other thing that's not very well known about me is I'm a musician. I play drums. I play bass guitar, piano. I'm learning violin. I'd love to learn rhythm guitar eventually. I haven't got that far yet, but you know, I like to play instruments. I do dabble in writing a little bit of music and stuff sometimes, but for the most part, I just stick to banging on the drums and playing bass guitar. So there's that. That's the gist of my personal life, I guess. Kids and music. That's about all I got time for.
I love it. I love it. And I did not know you were a musician until today. And I'm so excited about that. I have 2 brothers that are great musicians. I did not get that talent, but I am working on it. Okay. I've got some keyboards. I've got a boom box, you know, a beatbox. I want a full drum set. Okay. Because I find myself like, you know, I feel it. Okay. But
there's something holy about banging on the drums. I'm telling you.
There's freedom. There's freedom. I got a freedom story about that. I'll share with you off camera sometime. It's so good. But listen, we are so excited to be here today with you all because we're talking about an important topic. We're talking about the freedom walk, what it looks like. And God led Christy to write a book about it. And I've got the book right here. I'm going to show you this book. It is so awesome. I literally got this book. She sent it to me and I got it, read 4 chapters, and then I lost it. And so I found it and sat down and read it all one night because it is like reading my own story in a sense, right? So Christy, you wrote this book, The Escape Artist, A Fight for Freedom from Trauma, but to take it a step further, what do you got sitting there by you to go along with this? What's the companion to this?
Well, I wrote a workbook that goes along with it. This is the Amazon proof copy. It also releases March 31st along with my book. And what I did was I reread my own book. And as the Lord pointed it out to me, I would write questions to allow people to go deeper. And so each chapter's got a short little write-up, and then it's got very deep reflection questions in here. And then what I did is kind of a service to the reader, because my book also has reflection questions and space for I copied those questions into the journal, into the companion book as well. So that way, whenever they you know, are processing whatever the Lord reveals, you've got space to do it all in one spot, and you've got you know, an extra key in your tool belt to work out all your things with the Lord. So
I love this. I absolutely love this. And you know, I know the story, but I want you to share with the audience about when you felt led to write this book.
Okay. It's an interesting adventure, but in, I believe, 2019, I attended the King's Daughters Conference, and there was a lady there that told her testimony. And she was kind of given like a word that if she would share her story, then someone would be set free in the audience. And that person was me. and I went to a back room with her, and we prayed for a little while. And
Wow.
that conference that year just absolutely wrecked me. But, just in the wake of and the aftermath of the prayer, and just that's probably one of the first times I admitted some of the things that happened. And I went back, sat down in my seat, and I just felt this deep stir in my soul, in my spirit, I guess, to just record my journey, and journal it, and make sure that the different tools and things that the Lord gave me along my healing journey, to just document it all so that I would have it. And that manifested in the book as journal entries. And so
Yeah.
they're just my own raw words that and emotions that I felt as I processed everything that I was going through. As the Lord took me through that kind of lengthy, it was about 7-8 years healing process. And even today, still sometimes there's another layer to the onion. When you think you're done, there's another layer. But it's a thing. So, but
I
yeah,
love that you use the analogy of the onion in the book, because that's an analogy I use as well and is so important. So talk a little bit about that layer of trauma and release of that.
What I learned throughout the process is that when the Lord asks you to heal, it's almost like you saying yes takes the skin off, and then he starts peeling it layer by layer. And I found that very rarely with different and there's different onions. Even it's not like just one onion, it's each onion's its own subject, but very rarely does he cut it straight down the center and pull the root out. Very rarely. Because a lot of times we need to process whatever it is that is going on. Like if I could choose anger and bitterness, those roots are deep in you, and if you were to pull them all out at once, I think it would potentially even physically hurt us, because we carry the weight of whatever it is. Like the anger would always manifest right here for me. And as I slowly released the anger, the physical manifestation was a lot less. What's the word for it? It wasn't as pronounced, I guess is the word for it. And then, once you finally forgive and finally release and finally are able to get it all out, you do feel better. You physically feel better. You mentally feel better. You go through the mind renewal. It's just like it's so intertwined between physical, spirit, and our emotions and thoughts that, and the other thing I always like to say about the onions is, as you peel the layers off, you are most likely going to cry.
Right.
It's just the way that it works. Whenever you cut an onion, the gas makes you cry, and whenever you have stuffed emotions, when they come up, most likely you are going to cry. So that's just kind of how healing works. It's just turning and facing whatever it is you're going through and dealing with it, because we just hide it and stuff it and shove it away. And we're like, nope, not going to deal with you today. It's talk to the hand kind of situation. And, we just need to turn, like I said, turn and face it and say, I'm going to deal with you today, and, get it gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let the Lord drag it off the chains that chained you up in.
So true, so true. And the onion layers, some are really thick and they take a little longer, and some are really thin and they just come off real easy. And I love the fact that you mentioned, we are spirit, soul, and body. And so, we've everything, it is intertwined. And so many times people do not realize the physical aspect of trauma and how your body traps it, and even on a cellular level. And it is so important to work through this. For many years, Christy, I went through, before I became, got my master's for counseling and stuff. When I first went back to college, I went to be a nurse, not because I felt called to be a nurse. I went because I needed an income that I could support my kids with. But I ended up learning a lot about the physiological aspects of the physical body, and the body keeps score. There's a book, a secular book called The Body Keeps Score. I believe you've read it. I think you mentioned it in the book. And it is super important for us to understand that what happens on a physical level. And do you know, it is so crazy that every time that I've gotten an emotional healing, it is followed by a physical
healing. Yep.
And it's so beautiful that God does it like that. And many of you that have watched my broadcast, you know a lot about my story. I've dealt with a lot of chronic health issues, cancer, the whole 9 yards. But the reality is that God wants us to heal inside out. And it doesn't look the way that, this cookie cutter thing that the world says that if you do A and if you do B and if you do C, that you're going to be all right. It's not a formula. It's a process, and it can be a messy process, just like grief. You can be cruising right along and all of a sudden it goes, and you start to, have a trigger, and triggers aren't always bad. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to be triggered. Yeah, you do want to be triggered because you want to find out what's still there and needs to be dealt with. So, we talk a lot about going back, a dog returned to its vomit, going back to Egypt, things like that. Did you find that whenever you were trying to break free from the mindsets and the traumas, the past hurts and all the things you were carrying? Did you feel like you were taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometime? Did you feel like you ever wanted to run back to Egypt?
Oh, plenty of times. Whenever I first started going through the process and going just down this road of healing, I guess is the word for it. I was wandering around in my own little, desert for a little bit. But whenever I started going through the process, I had to learn very quickly not to rush the Lord. I had to just submit to the process that he had for me. If he placed a counselor in front of me, then I would just schedule an appointment with them and be like, okay, Lord, what are we supposed to tackle in this appointment? And then we would go for it. And then, as I go, worked through the first little piece of the layer, then he would say, okay, now schedule a mind renewal session with this guy, deal with that. And then sometimes he put a book in front of me, or even a podcast episode. He's put sermons, a lot of different things, it just in my path. And as he illuminated the next step, I would just take that step. And that's all he ever asked of me, was 1 step at a time. And he just guided me through the process. And as I submitted to that process, sometimes it required me to kind of lose your dignity a little bit. And sometimes it involved, somebody laying hands on me. And because when it comes to traumatic memories, there's some stuff that's blocked and it's best left blocked. And so a lot of times the Lord would say to me, I'm dealing with your blocked memories. We're going to deal with getting the emotion out of you, but I'm not going to trigger the memory, because if he would do that, it would re-traumatize me. And so, what he, in his grace and kindness, he would just say, we're going to deal with this, but I still had to go through the process of getting rid of those stuffed down emotions. And that was just the beauty of the healing process. Like I said, with the onion, sometimes you're going to cry, and, sometimes you get tired of crying, but there you can even see an example in the book. There was a time where I fought the Lord, where I was like, I don't really want to do this today, Lord. And he's like, he finally got a hold of me and he goes, do you want to heal or not? And so, I had to submit. And that's the other thing that I love about the Lord, is he's such a gentleman. He is not going to ask you to do something that you are, that he's not going to walk through with you, is what I'm trying to say. He's not going to send you off on. And if he asks you to do something, you also have to submit to it. He's not going to force you. And, it's always, are you willing? Will you? It's never go do this right now, when it terms of healing and processing your emotions and trauma and stuff. But, the Egypt side of things, I've discovered through my process that it's not a flat highway. You will go, it's a very narrow path. And you will go over the river and through the woods, which I love to give that analogy, but it's like you one day you're trekking through the Amazon forest, and the next day you are, in a grassy field and everything is good. So, it's just one of those, situations. Like I said, you just have to submit, and you just have to say, Lord, I'm in this for the long haul with you. And, whatever you need me to do next, that's what I will do. And you just have to just walk the path. And, one day you look back and you think, wow, how far have I come? And, it's such a blessing when you finally get to the other side of the journey.
Amen. And it is a journey, sometimes there's supernatural intervention from God. There are occasions, and fewer than less, where people are just set free from certain things. I've had some things like addiction. I got set free from smoking cigarettes. I literally could not smoke. I would vomit if I tried to smoke a cigarette. But,
Wow.
I went back to that vomit. Okay. So I got set free. And then a couple years later, I was going through a very stressful time. I was in a corporate job that I had to get a state licensure and go to claim school and all this stuff. And my job was contingent on me passing this exam. And my study group, there were smokers. And all of a sudden, I just thought, okay. And I just had one that night after dinner or whatever. And then it started increasing. And I had to go back to the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, you set me free. But I went back to that moment. I went back to that addiction. Please forgive me. And he did. But guess what? I had to walk that journey out. And it was bad. I mean, I'd walk out of a restaurant. I'd be at Olive Garden. I'd see a group of smokers. I walk by and I go, why did you smoke so bad? But yet I had been set free. And so freedom looks different, but God always uses everything for our good. And he knows the timing. And it's never pressure. It's always gentle, like you said. That's so beautiful. And I love the analogy that you gave. It's so important. So listen, if you were out there and you were thinking, man, I think I have some issues, some underlying currents of things. Maybe I have no memories of my childhood, or there are different things that, that has been too scary for you to go to. Trust the timing of the Lord. He knows when you're supposed to be set free. I've been working on my story for years, and I literally am finally writing about it. And I wrote a book previously called Dead End Roads Lead to Glorious Highways. And when I got into with some professional writers and stuff, and I realized just how bad my book was, the storyline, the contents was good, but my writing, I'm a speaker, and so it's harder for me to put those things and articulate it. But I took it down, and I'm actually going to re-release it. But I'm writing my story, and I was writing a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm getting breakthrough from my own story because we remember what God has done.
Yep.
We remember what he's done, and he's done so much. And so if you're in the beginning of your freedom walk, or if you are on the other side of it, we have an awesome responsibility to share with others so that they can walk in freedom too. And so listen, you guys, it comes out March the 31st. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. March 31st.
Okay. And again, the title is Escape Artist, the Fight from Freedom, or the Fight for Freedom from Trauma. And she's got the coinciding workbook that goes along with it. I encourage you to go all in. Go all in.
Yep.
And you might be going, I'm already walking in freedom. I forgave this person. I dealt with my traumas and all of this. Everything is not for you, y'all. It's not for you. You've got people sitting next to you at work. You've got people living down the road from you. You got people in your family. And this is a great way to introduce someone who is not there yet, but they read the story just like she heard the testimony. And it gave her the courage to face the things that she needed to deal with and the timing of the Lord. And I'm so encouraged that it happened at the King's Daughters Conference because those ladies are special. The ladies that facilitate that, they are incredible. I love them. I spoke there. I don't know what year it was I spoke there, but I just went back for their 10th anniversary. And I think part of the reason God had me back is so I could meet Christy and hear what God was doing. Yeah. I mean, I was so excited. He just works everything for our good. The Romans 8:28 thing. So Christy, God has even led you to do more. You've got a podcast coming up. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, the podcast is called Honeyed Candor. And it's going to release April 15th. And the whole purpose of the podcast is to tell the truth in love. And so I wanted that to be the title of it in some fancy way. And the Lord kind of dropped Honeyed Candor on me. I was like, oh, that's good, Lord. And so, I take no credit for the book. I take no credit for the podcast title because the Lord dropped it all on me. And I just had to walk into it. But the podcast itself, I found over the course of my life, because I've been born and raised in church, and I've been to college and all of those things, and I've been even in the video gaming world. When people would find out I was a Christian, they'd start asking me really hard questions. And, and I had to have an answer for those questions. And so what the podcast does is it takes a lot of those questions that would drive people away from the Lord. And I'm going to sit down and answer them. Like a simple example is, why does bad things happen to good people? So we're going to go through it. And, we're going to just break it down the best that I can. And there's even some very deep philosophical things that I've been asked over the years. And, I'm just going to take them one subject at a time as the Lord leads and just break them down. And then even as we, go through our maturity and our walk as a body of Christ, we get into situations like, how do we handle when leaders fall, or when, you get into situations where it's like, how do we handle this? Because this is slightly uncharted territory where we have the internet and anybody can be called out at any point and any time. And it's like, it's just persistent. I hate to put this word on this, but it's almost traumatic. It's almost spiritual trauma. And, we're just faced with it all the time. And it's like, okay, well, how do we handle this as a body in a mature way that's healthy so that we can, move forward? So there's two subjects right there that I could probably look over. But it's just, that's the point of the podcast. That's the heart behind it, is to just tell the truth in love, because there's so many places that are just shouting like clanging cymbals from the rooftops and from the mountaintops. And it's like, where's the authentic voice that is calm, cool, and collected, that will just tell me like it is? And so that's just kind of where I feel my lane is right there in that sweet spot of just tell people what it is, and just don't sugarcoat it. I mean, sugarcoat it love, but just be authentic and real, and just be like, this is the straight, cold, hard facts. And, but I'm going to, not be awful about it. I'm just going to tell you in love exactly what it is. That heart to heart conversation is what I'm after.
So important what you're doing, Christy, because people have questions. And when questions don't get answered, vain imaginations come in and they start to create this thing. So listen, y'all, there is it's vital. And I would encourage you to watch this with your teens. Because your teens that you've raised in church all your life, we've got, they go off to college. Barnum has done a lot of studies how they fall away because there is an employer and a coworker, a boyfriend or girlfriend, or someone somewhere waiting to poke a hole in their belief system. Wait a minute, you've been a Christian all your life and you don't know that? You can't tell me that? And they start to poke at it to where they start to question. Okay. It's really, to be honest, it's a form of gaslighting, making them question their own reality, or making them question a loving God. And it's important that people get the right answers biblically. Because we are living in a crazy world these days. Yes, and we do have the whole issue of ministers falling it's the great falling away. We knew the Bible said this would all happen, but we need a sound voice, a voice in the wilderness, speaking the truth with love. So I love. And so that's coming out in April. And you guys can find that on all podcast channels. It'll be launched on Spotify, but you can find it on Apple, Google, all the different places. And I want to encourage you to subscribe to it and share with your lost friends who have those questions. Maybe you don't feel comfortable diving that deep and going into the all of the ins and outs of it, but by golly, Christy's willing to do it. So let's let her do it. So yay.
Yep, pretty well.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. Okay. So you got the book, you got that, and on your Instagram, you're blogging on there on Tuesdays, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my Instagram handle is at purely CC, and CC is spelled like CC wine and CECE. And what I wanted to accomplish there is just a place where I could just say it's authentically me. That's why the title is what it is. And, I've got, that's basically where you can follow all of my shenanigans and anything that I'm into. And so I get into a lot of stuff, and that you can follow me there, and I post everything I'm into there. And then my website is christycrites.com, and that's where my blog is. And you'll be able to see my podcast embed there as well whenever it launches. You can find me. You can order my book there. You can do all of that kind of stuff wherever, you can just see everything I'm into on my website too. So you can, just follow me in all the places, and you'll be able to sort out what I'm into.
That is awesome. I love it. Because I think it's important that people see that we are real. Okay. Yep. We just have to be real and authentic. And that is what is going to get people to get those stereotypes out of their minds. So it's beautiful that you're doing that. So listen, I know in your book, you talk a lot about, keys. I was digging it the whole time. I'm going, oh my gosh, she loves Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she knows about the renewing of the mind. She knows about complex trauma. But you refer to keys, and the name of this broadcast is Keys to Your Best Life. So I want you to leave the audience with the key. If you could leave them with any key, it can be anything, whatever you feel like the Holy Ghost is saying right now. What would that key be?
Well, the thing that the Lord is bringing to my mind is, and this is straight from my heart, because if I didn't experience this myself, I wouldn't be able to preach the message. But it's intimacy with Jesus. This is a tool, it's a method, it's a thing, but intimacy with Jesus over everything.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing in life, no matter what's going on, stay close to him, because that walk with him is so precious. Oh my gosh, it makes me want to cry thinking about it. But it really is. And the Lord is such a gentleman, and he's so kind. He's also the king. I always throw that caveat in there, because sometimes he shows up as King Jesus and you're shaking in your boots. But, that closeness with him is, the best thing ever, because, it helps us when things do happen. Like, you can heal and get through all your stuff. But if you don't have that closeness with the Lord and that deep intimacy, that deep knowledge of who he is and his character and all those things, when bad things happen, you will start to question everything and you'll want to back away. But if you know who he is, and you know his character, and you know how he behaves, and you know him for who he is, it's like, if you with your spouse, if something happens, you're like, that's not my husband, that's not how he behaves.
Right.
You know that with Jesus, it's like, that's not how he behaves. This is the enemy. This is not Jesus. This is the enemy. And, when you get to that place, it's such a sacred and holy place. And I just encourage everyone to pursue Jesus over everything. Don't worry about anything else, and it's almost like I just feel this question brewing up in my spirit of, I have an example of this. The Lord asked me a while back, and it took me a bit to answer this question, honestly. He said, if you do nothing else for me for the rest of my life, the rest of your life, I mean, if you do nothing else for me for the rest of your life, am I alone enough for you? And I was like, oh, Lord. I repented right then and there. I was like, you wouldn't be asking me this question if my mind wasn't straight. Wow. And so, I was just like, Lord, let me sit with this and let me truly work this out and help me work it out. And let me answer this honestly, because like I said, the relationship with him is just so important. Amen. And it's probably one of the only reasons why we're down here is to form that relationship. I don't know. But, we have our kingdom role, but first and foremost, Jesus.
Amen. You can't give something you don't have. And in the secret place is where we get it. That's where we get refilled, refueled, and able to serve those that we love. So this has been so incredibly good. Thank you so much for being on the broadcast with me today. I
know. The pleasure and the honor is mine. Let's put it that way. So
we've had a blast, haven't we? This has been good. Yeah. So listen, I want you guys to check her out at Christy Crites. I'm saying it wrong. Crites, right?
Yes.
Okay. .com, and check out all the things that God's doing through our ministry. And like I said, share it out with your friends and family, coworkers, because they need some words of encouragement. We know there's a lot of things you can do with your time. We're grateful that you spent it here with us. Please check us out. If you are watching this on any other platform besides YouTube, go to Moving Forward Media, subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff, because that's where you're going to find it. But also download our app. Our app can be found as Moving Forward Ministries on all your app stores and so forth to get additional information. But if you have any questions about Christy, or if you can't find her, reach out to me. I will help you find her, because I just love my sister here in Christ. So we bless you. We thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time here at Keys to Your Best Life, where we're having conversations that will move you forward. God bless. See you next time. Bye.